high above the clouds, where silence lives between the peaks of the great Himalayas. A young hawk named Erin watched a soft white feather drift into the wind. It danced on an invisible current, a tiny speck of white against the vast, blue emptiness, before floating gently into the abyss below. One day, he whispered to the crisp, thin air, "I will fly as far as that feather goes. I'll see the world beyond this stone cradle." But the mountain, ancient and wise, seemed to rumble in response. Its voice was the low groan of shifting rock and whistling wind. "You are not ready, little one," it seemed to say. "The air beyond these cliffs is cruel and unforgiving to those who are not prepared." Erin, however, heard only a challenge, not a warning. His heart, full of youthful fire, burned for the horizon. He believed his strength was measured by the power in his wings, not the wisdom in his spirit. He watched the feather disappear, a promise he made to himself echoing in the quiet solitude of the peaks. Dreams are easy on the cliff, surrounded by the familiar, but turning them into reality requires more than just a leap of faith. The other birds, content with their predictable lives, often mocked Erin. "You dream too big," they would chirp, preening their feathers. "The world you know is safe. Why leave the certainty of the mountain for the chaos of the unknown?" Their words were like small pebbles, trying to weigh down his soaring ambitions. But Erin's desire was a force of nature in itself. So one dawn, as the first rays of sun turned the sky to liquid gold, he decided it was time. He took a deep breath, ignored the chorus of doubt, and leaped from the edge. For a glorious second, he felt the updraft. But then, the wind, the very force he thought would carry him, roared with unexpected fury. It was a wild, untamed beast. His young wings trembled, fighting a battle they hadn't trained for. And then, just as suddenly, he fell. Down, down, tumbling through the air. He spiraled into the deep valley below. Erin learned a harsh lesson that morning. Courage without patience is just pride wearing armor. And armor is heavy when you're falling from the sky. Broken and alone, Erin lay in the valley. The world from down here was different. The sky was just a narrow strip of blue framed by towering rock walls. He tried to fly, pushing with all his might, but his wings, bruised and humbled, wouldn't lift him. The pain was sharp, but the shame was sharper. Days turned into a quiet blur. Defeated, he began to walk. The valley floor, once a distant map, was now his entire world. It was here, in his grounded state, that he started to truly see. He met the small, diligent creatures he had only ever glanced at from above. He watched ants working in perfect unison, building intricate tunnels with tireless determination. He observed a turtle moving with a slow, deliberate grace that spoke of unhurried wisdom. He sat for hours, mesmerized by a caterpillar as it painstakingly wove its cocoon. A silent act of profound transformation. Each creature lived its truth quiet, slow, and unseen by the world above, yet unshaken in their purpose. It was a revelation. Erin realized that strength wasn't always in the speed of one S wings or the height of one S flight. Sometimes true strength was found in stillness, in patience, and in the quiet, steady work of becoming. One night, the valley's tranquility was shattered. A massive storm, born in the distant peaks, descended with a vengeance. The wind howled like a grieving giant, and rain fell in blinding sheets. Lightning, sharp and brilliant, struck the ancient trees, and fire began to spread with terrifying speed. Panic erupted among the valley's small inhabitants. They scurried in chaos, their small worlds consumed by fear. But Erin, weak and grounded, saw something they didn't. From his low vantage point, he noticed the subtle patterns in the wind, the way it funneled through the landscape. He saw the narrow gaps between the rocks, passages invisible to a panicked eye, which offered the only path to safety. He couldn't fly, but he could guide. Using his voice, sharp and clear, he directed the frantic animals, leading them through the smoky labyrinth to a sheltered overhang. That night, he who once fell from the sky saved those who could not fly. As the storm finally cleared and the last embers died, Erin looked up. The clouds had parted, revealing a tapestry of stars, brighter than he had ever seen them from the mountaintop. And then, something caught his eye. A single feather, glowing in the soft moonlight, drifted down and landed beside him. It was the same feather from the beginning. The feather had found him again not when he was flying high, But when he had learned to stand tall, at sunrise a new light filled the valley, and with it a new strength filled Erin. He stood, feeling the cool morning air, and stretched his wings. They felt different, not just healed, but whole. This time there was no desperate leap, no dreadful launch. There was only a calm certainty. He flexed his wings, and the wind, the same wind that had once thrown him down, now met him like an old friend. It lifted him, gently at first, then with growing power. He rose. Higher and higher he soared, steadier and stronger than ever before. He ascended past the valley walls, above the familiar cliffs, until he was circling the very peak that had once doubted him. The world unfolded beneath him, a breathtaking panorama of forests, rivers, and distant lands. He finally understood. The mountain wasn't testing his wings, it was teaching his heart. The fall wasn't a failure, it was a lesson. It had stripped him of his arrogance and given him empathy. It had taken his flight, but given him vision. Sometimes life grounds you, not to break you, but to teach you how to rise again with purpose. So, when you fall, when the winds of life seem to knock you from your path, don't curse the storm. It might just be showing you what your wings were truly made for. Your greatest strength isn't always found in soaring, but in the courage to stand up after you've been brought to the ground. It's in the patience you learn in the valley and the wisdom you gain from the storm. Remember Erin, and remember the feather that found him not at his highest, but at his most humble. If this story resonated with you, let us know in the comments below with the words, "I will rise again." Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Until next time, keep your heart open and your spirit ready to fly.